eclipse of the sun will be visible from the Big Island and a small part of Maui, weather permitting. And tonight, Channel 2 brings you a special program about an event that has fascinated people throughout history. The moment when the moon passes directly in front of the sun and the earth falls under the shadow of the moon. Laura Soller is standing by live on the Big Island tonight at the center of all this excitement. Laura?
Hello, and thank you, Joe. We are here tonight in Waikoloa, where a crowd will be gathering for tomorrow morning's spectacular show. It's actually God's gift to Hawaii. Now, the sun will enter its total eclipse phase at about 7:28 in the morning. And for just over 4 minutes, the sun will be completely blocked out by the moon. Solar scientists and curiosity seekers alike from around the world are here tonight, and you can almost feel the excitement. We've gotten caught up in that excitement of creating tonight's special program for you, and people who have seen a total solar eclipse before tell us that there's no experience quite like it, so we're glad you're here with us. Our show is intended to prepare the whole family for this big event. A special focus of this program is the sense of wonder that an eclipse brings out in the eyes of children. We'll tell you just how the solar show comes about, what our experts hope to learn by this eclipse, and, of course, the most important, safe ways to view this spectacular event. So gather the family around. The shadow of the moon is coming up next. Morning of July 11th, something's going to happen in Hawaii that's going to make all of us stop what we're doing and turn toward the sky. The sun's light will fade, birds will stop singing, the earth will grow quiet, and Hawaii will pass under the shadow of the moon. Hi, I'm Laura Soller. On the morning of July 11th, a small part of Maui and all of the Big Island will be witness to a total solar eclipse. The sun will be completely blocked from view with only its pearly outer atmosphere, or a corona, left visible. It's a rare event because the Earth, the sun, and the moon have to be lined up just right. And when they are, this is what you'll see. To make the light of the sun disappear. Well, I'm standing now with Ken Miller, the planetarium chairman here at Bishop Museum, who can maybe fill us in on how this happens.
Well, I'll try to. Eclipses are really just shadows. And like with any other shadow, a shadow takes three things. A light source, which of course is the sun for the eclipse. It takes something to block the light, which is the moon in this eclipse, and something for the shadow to fall upon, which is the earth. Now, during the eclipse, we're going to see, instead of the moon going too high or too low to cover the earth, we'll see the shadow of the moon actually fall right there upon the earth.
Then everyone in Hawaii will see the eclipse.
Well, yes and no. It's a sort of a two-part shadow, and to explain that a little bit better, maybe we should go over here.
Okay.
Now, that shadow that the moon's going to cast is actually a two-part shadow. First of all, you can think of the moon's umbra, which is the total shadow, where if you were here, for instance, you wouldn't see the top, the bottom, or the middle of the sun. There's also, though, a larger shadow called the penumbra, and that's what we're used to usually for partial eclipses. For instance, if you were right here, you could still see the top of the sun, but the moon would be blocking the bottom of the sun. This is what we did last July, for instance. Partial eclipses are fairly common, but it's very rare that that tiny little umbra shadow passes directly over you. That's the big deal about July 11th.
That's Hawaii.
Indeed, the Big Island inside the umbra, the rest of the state just slightly outside in the penumbra.
Since the middle of March, the Bishop Museum has been bringing the wonder of tomorrow morning's eclipse to life with its greatest show above the Earth exhibit. For Keala and about 15,000 youngsters like her, a lesson in science becomes an Alice in Wonderland adventure. At the start, close-up views of the sun during the different phases of the eclipse, pictures of the sun's corona and the 1,000-mile plumes of gases that fly off its surface cast an eerie glow. As they enter the Hall of Shadows, kids get a chance to freeze their silhouettes against a blank wall, just as the coming eclipse will freeze a moment in time for all of us. The three-dimensional model Ken Miller just showed us offers a chance for some hands-on demonstrating of the forces at work during an eclipse. The display shows just what a cosmic coincidence it is for the sun, moon, and Earth to be lined up just right. Youngsters respond quickly to this computer model at the Greatest Show Above the Earth exhibit. They can pinpoint just how the eclipse will look from wherever they live. From her house in Palolo Valley, Keala will see 96% of totality, and that means some form of eye protection will be necessary. We'll talk about how to protect your eyes and find out what folks in past centuries thought about solar eclipses when we come back.
When the moon goes over the sun, that there's going to be a spot on the Earth, the shadow of the eclipse. When the moon covers the sun and it casts a shadow on the Earth.
Here the sun, here the moon, yeah? Right at the moon. Here the moon going to go like this. It's going to take about 2 hours. It's going to go like that. And they're going to get about 96% of the moon. And they're going to get 4% of the sun. Then they're going to stay about 3 minutes over here, 4 minutes in Big Island. Then the bugger going to move.
It's one of the most awesome sights of nature, and it's bringing all kinds of people to Hawaii this summer. Scientists and spectators from all over the world. Now, the sun will only be dark for 4 minutes on the Big Island, but no one who sees this show will ever forget it. When the moon's shadow moves over Hawaii, it will come in the shape of an oval, moving west to east in the path that will bring it directly over the Big Island at about 7:28 in the morning. People here will see a total solar eclipse. Folks on the other islands will see a partial eclipse. The sun's light won't be completely blocked out. On Kauai, we'll see only this much of the sun. On Oahu, this much.
Here the eclipse happens just an hour after sunrise, which is the perfect time for normally viewing the sun. In fact, as a professional solar astronomer, that's the time when we look at the sun and get the best information. So it's perfect. It's as though someone wrote a script for this eclipse.
This is just a really special opportunity. A total eclipse over 6 or 7 monster telescopes. Just very unusual.
Yeah.
Probably won't happen again for 400 or 500 years.
Solar scientists like the University of Hawaii's Barry Labonte have waited a lifetime for tomorrow morning's spectacular. Here at the university's Institute of Astronomy, you can feel the excitement.
It's a unique event in our lives, and we're all very excited about this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do many experiments that are only possible this one time.
Today, we take for granted the fact that we live on a small planet, just part of a huge galaxy of other planets, stars, whole systems moving through space. But imagine what people must have thought in past centuries when the sun went dark in the middle of the day. Powerful forces must have been at work if the light of the sun could be blacked out. 5 centuries before the birth of Christ, 2 Middle Eastern armies were in the middle of a fierce battle when the sun disappeared and the shadow of the moon plunged them into darkness. Fearing that their fighting had brought the anger of the heavens down on them, the armies laid down their weapons. The eclipse brought an end to 5 years of war. And more than 2,000 years before Christ, the mysterious people who built Stonehenge in southern England were using these colossal stones as a kind of solar calendar to predict those terrifying times when the sun would darken. And this story is told about ancient China at about the same time Stonehenge was built, that the emperor ordered his court astronomers put to death when they failed to warn him of a coming eclipse. Ancient peoples built up powerful myths to explain the sudden darkening of the sun. The Chinese believed the sun was being swallowed by a huge dragon. On the mainland, long before the settlers came, Native Americans fired flaming arrows at the sun to try to bring its fire back to life. As people around the world learned how to study the skies, they began to understand what makes an eclipse happen and look for ways to predict when the next one would come. Just the process of watching them could get pretty complicated.
This coelostat consists of 3 mirrors driven by clocks set so that the reflection of the sun shines in them and is reflected into these cameras. The middle mirror is feeding this moving picture camera, which is taking photographs of the complete eclipse. The first contact has happened, so the moon is now coming over the sun.
It's no exaggeration to say tomorrow could become the greatest single day in the evolution of solar astronomy. The technology, the event, and the location are all coming together. For Dr. Labonte and his colleagues, the eclipse will provide an opportunity to study the sun's corona through the use of digital imaging, a technique that has grown rapidly in just the last few years. The corona is the halo of light that is only visible during a total eclipse. As long ago as 1779, scientists looked for ways to duplicate the spectacle of an eclipse with a contraption called an eclipsarion, which projects the shadow of a candle onto a rotating globe. That's a primitive version of what is done 300 days a year at the Mauna Loa Solar Observatory. Here, scientists duplicate the effects of a total eclipse in their telescopes and cameras through the use of special filters. Charles Garcia is the superintendent of the observatory.
What we're measuring in the corona is scattered light. And scattered light is also contributed by the Earth's atmosphere, and it's also contributed by our own optical system. In a natural eclipse, because the moon is above the Earth's atmosphere, we eliminate much of that scattered light. So by comparing a very, very high quality coronal image that will be made with a coronal camera that is being brought in, especially for this eclipse, in our own data, then we can very carefully calibrate and understand what the sky scattering is doing to us, the Earth's atmosphere, and also what our own optical system is doing.
Maybe we can never know enough about the sun. Its heat and light make life on Earth possible. For the ancients, this knowledge was at the root of the terror they felt when that light disappeared and the temperature began to drop. It's always cool at the summits of the Big Island's 2 great mountains. The air is clear and ideal for solar observation. And for the experts whose lifetime of study will reach its summit tomorrow morning, there will be little time for reflection.
The eclipse only lasts 4 minutes, and you can't make a mistake or you'll miss it. So we have to just practice. It's going to be like a ballet or a concert. We will just practice it until we get every note right.
And for me, it's a chance to finally do an experiment right that I've been working on for 20 years. So from that point of view, it's a marvelous opportunity.
To tell you about in tonight's program is safe viewing. The partial phases of an eclipse can be very dangerous to look at without proper protection, and a partial eclipse is what most of us will be seeing. So for the next few minutes, with the help of some of our young friends here at the Bishop Museum, we're going to explore some ways to allow maximum enjoyment of tomorrow morning's show. I'm sitting now with Mark Storman of the Bishop Museum. He is the Eclipse Project Manager. And we have a few friends that are along here with us. Waiolani Judd School. You are going to tell us how to view the sun safely tomorrow morning when the eclipse happens.
Okay, one of the safe ways is to use a direct viewing technique, like using the Bishop Museum Sun Peak. That is a special filter that's made to allow you to look right at the sun. It blocks the dangerous light and lets just enough light through to see. And the way you use it is you just bring it right up to your face. Kids, you can do this with us. Bring it up to your face and then hold it up and look right at the sun. Make sure you put it in front of your face before you look at the sun. Then after you've watched the sun and you see the nice crescent up there during the eclipse, go ahead and look away from the sun. Then you can bring it away from your face and put it away. That's a nice way to do it and a safe way to use it.
All right, what what is this contraption?
Well, this is a telescope. A lot of people will have telescopes like this at home, the long, narrow style like this. And if they do have one of these at home, they can use it safely to view the eclipse as long as they follow some very important instructions.
Like?
The most important one, of course, is never look through the telescope.
Why have a telescope if you cannot do
Well,
that?
you can look through the telescope at night at stars, but if you were to look through this telescope at the sun during the day, you would instantly go blind. You don't even have time enough to get your eye away from the eyepiece. So it's very important that they just project the image with the telescope instead of looking through the telescope. As a matter of fact, if they have any kids around, make sure you watch it all the time so none of the kids come over and try and look through the telescope. Now, the things that you would do is just have the sun coming into the telescope. Notice that the eyepiece is aimed downward into this box over here. And on the bottom of the box, we have a piece of white paper. So we're just projecting the image down into the box. Now, remember, you can't look through the telescope, including when you're trying to find the sun. So the easiest way is just to put your hand underneath until you get the image of the sun in there, until you move your telescope around. Once you have the image of the sun in there, then you can look into your box and get it nice and centered up and focus it with your focusing knobs by looking at the bottom of the box.
Great way.
Just never look through it. The other thing is if they have one of these little viewfinders that are usually on the front of the telescope, then they need to take that off so nobody tries to look through that. This is another safe way to watch the eclipse, and that's basically to project the image. And you do that, just get a mirror, one that you probably have at home, and this mirror, you're going to cover it up with a piece of paper until you just have a hole about the size of a dime left in the mirror. And this hole, you shouldn't really cut it as a circle, because then when you project the image, everybody thinks you're just projecting the circle that you cut.
So cut a diamond shape.
That's right, a diamond or a square, whatever star would work, as long as it's about the size of a dime. That way, when they see the projected image, they know that it's actually the sun or the crescent of the sun during the eclipse that they're seeing.
Okay, but you have to use a flat mirror, not a concave.
That's correct.
All right.
Okay, so what you do at that point is, after you've got it all cut out, you put it into just a plain bucket of sand, and you just stick it in there.
Okay.
And then you're going to have the sun over here. The sunlight's going to come, bounce off of the mirror. You can just move the mirror to whatever angle you want, and it's going to bounce off of this mirror into a shady area 30 or 40 feet away. Now, that shady area could be the inside of your garage. It could be right through the door of your house onto a white wall in the house.
Right, as long as it's a dark spot.
Right.
You can project it on a white piece of paper, but in a dark area.
Right, yeah. If you try to project it out into a sunny area, you're not going to be able to see it.
Good.
And this is make an image 30 or 40 feet away. It'll make an image nice and big like that. And you can watch all the crescent phases. And it's safe because you're not looking at the sun. You're looking right at this projected image.
We are here again with Ken Miller, who tells us that one of the most fun ways to see an eclipse is under a tree?
That's right. On a normal day, the leaves of a tree make little pinholes that project round circles and splotches on your shirt, say.
Right.
But on eclipse morning, you're going to be seeing pinhole projections of that crescent sun, and they'll be all over the ground on sidewalks and on yourself.
And on yourself, so wear a light-colored shirt.
That's right. You might want to take the family out and line them up underneath that tree, get a lasting impression on film of the eclipse, and by not looking at the sun at that moment, of course, you won't leave a lasting impression in your eye.
So if you look at an eclipse using one of these methods, or all of them, we can guarantee it's a sight you'll never forget. We'll be back with some final thoughts live from the Big Island when we come back. We are back with you live from the Big Island, and the countdown to totality is underway. We talked in our program about the ways that children have been learning about solar eclipses, and especially during the past few months, we got some wonderful cards from kids at the Kalihi Union Church just to show you the creativity that has gone into this and all the effort and the things that they've learned about solar eclipses. It's wonderful. Now, we have also told you about how to view the eclipse. And one of the best ways, of course, is right here on Channel 2. We have a dozen reporters, cameramen, and technical people here on the Big Island for our live coverage tomorrow morning. And Ray Lovell and Mita Membang will be anchoring our live broadcasts. With me now is Ray Lovell, and things are getting pretty exciting right here in Waikoloa.
One of the added elements of excitement is the weather. We have clouds overhead. We are told that there probably will be high cloudiness here tomorrow morning, but the sun will shine through. Whether we have clouds or not, we also will have camera positions on Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa that should bring us crystal clear pictures of this solar event.
They will bring us crystal clear pictures, so be sure to tune in. Things are getting pretty exciting, and we'd like to thank you very much for watching tonight's program. We hope you've learned just as much as we have, and remind you that live coverage begins with our Channel 2 morning news at 6:25 and continues to 8 a.m. when the shadow of the moon passes over Hawaii. Good night.
This Channel 2 News special is brought to you by GTE Hawaiian Tel, providers of quality international long-distance service for nearly 60 years. McDonald's Restaurants of Hawaii, always good food, always good value at McDonald's today. Robert's Hawaii Overnighters, offering you more choices and more fun to the neighbor islands. And Blockbuster Video of Hawaii, America's family video store.